So we always hear about a compressor when we're talking about music production, but what does a compressor do? I want to explain it to you as easy as possible without going into a DAW and doing all that nerdy stuff and just doing this with a whiteboard. So what a compressor does is you're going to see an audio file, right? So some peaks are higher, some are lower, and what it's doing is when you put a compressor on it, it's taking everything that passes a certain point that you set and takes this level and pushes it down and squishes it down so that it's kind of level with the more quieter volumes so that you're not having insane peaks and stuff. And so this line that you set is called your threshold. Your threshold means the line, the limit that you set where the compressor starts to react. So all this volume that does not cross over the threshold is unaffected by the compressor. Everything that goes over it is going to be squished down by the compressor. It's going to compress the sound. And another thing we have to look at is attack. Attack is the timing in which you set for the compressor to start taking place. So once this crosses over the threshold, how long does it take before that signal starts compressing? Okay, so if you have a fast attack, you're going to compress the initial transient. If you have it slower, it won't start reacting until later. So that it won't start reacting until it passes that time that you have set, whether it's like 100 milliseconds, 200 milliseconds, whatever the timing is, it doesn't take effect until it crosses that time, crosses that threshold, and then surpasses that time, okay? Another thing we have to look at is release. Release is the complete opposite. Release is when the compressor lets go of that compression signal. So whenever it compresses the signal, how long do you set it before it starts releasing? So release. Okay, so you have your attack, which is when it comes down, and then how fast is that releasing? So if you have a fast release, that's gonna let go drastically, like quickly, right? If you have a fast attack, fast release, it lets go quickly. But if you have a slower release, so say like if you had a release of 50 milliseconds versus 250 milliseconds, which is a higher number, which is a longer release time. So it's gonna clamp down and it's gonna take longer to let go, which means that it's going to compress more of the signal, like the tail end of the signal. That's when it starts releasing, okay? And then our fourth thing we want to look at, there's more to a compressor, but these are the four most important parts, is the ratio. So now you know at what point it starts compressing, how fast that compressor reacts, how quickly that compressor lets go, and the ratio is the amount of compression that is being used. Okay, so say we have a ratio of 2 to 1. That means every 2 decibels that crosses over the threshold, it's going to get compressed down by 1 dB. It's going to be lowered in volume by 1 dB. Okay, so that's half. So any sound that passes, if it's that high, half of it is getting cut off and compressed. Does that make sense? It's a 2 to 1 ratio. So same if you have a 4 to 1. Every 4 dBs that crosses, only 1 gets compressed. Okay, so this is half and this is a quarter. So I hope that makes sense and helps you understand what a compressor does. If it does, take a moment, stop, think about it, see if it makes sense. Hit subscribe if it does. If it doesn't make sense, please leave a comment below and I want to try to reiterate it so that it makes sense to you. Take care.